just a quantum jump about healing, that's all. But what we don't realize, because the advertisement of the medical mafia is that we don't have a pill for every ill, but we are made to believe that there is a pill for every ill. But the truth is, when there is no pill for every ill, there is an ill following every pill. Because no drug is safe. No drug is safe. That doesn't mean you should stop drugs. And don't go home and stop all the drugs that you are taking for till now. No, don't do that. Very dangerous. If you want to do anything with the drugs that you are already on, you must consult your own doctor because he is the best person. He or she is the best person to advise you on that. I wouldn't be able to tell you that. But all the same, the simple formula is less medicines you take, the better you are. But medicines are sometimes necessary. You have to take it. But when it is not necessary, unnecessarily taking it is no good. But what we don't know is, many of us live and many of us have lived all our lives without taking medicines. Even today, there are a lot of communities in the Amazon forest area, especially the Brazil and the Mexican part of Amazon forest area, where people have no touch with reality since the so-called civilization. But they are absolutely healthy at the age of 80, 90, even gone beyond 100. Now the Brazilian government is doing a survey of the Amazon forest to find out various groups of people living inside the forest with no touch with the reality outside. And they don't depend on medicines at all. They live because when you are made and sent here, nature, whoever is your maker, has put a doctor inside, which we call as in a sophisticated name our immune system, which has to look after all eventualities of diseases. Disease is not a natural thing, this is an accident. If you follow the healthy lifestyle, this is an accident. And even diseases are not guaranteed that if you follow a healthy lifestyle, you never get a disease, it's not there. But if you get a disease and follow the lifestyle still, you will recover very fast. That's the advantage. So, we have the capacity to heal ourselves. And how do you heal? Who heals? It's your mind that heals. Where is the mind? Where is the mind? Any answers?
Never mind.
Never mind. That's a good answer. That's a very good answer because up until recently scientists were thinking mind is in the brain. And the man who said mind is in the brain, Wilder Penfield, a Canadian neurosurgeon, got a Nobel Prize. But later on, 10 years later, he wrote, I'm sorry, I have made a big mistake. Mind cannot be in the brain because brain is too small an organ to contain the brain. Mind is a huge thing. Mind is your universal consciousness. And your consciousness is your mind. Mind is a canvas on which your thoughts are projected. So mind cannot be confined to the brain. Mind is in there, every cell in the human body, of which we have got about 240 trillion cells. Every cell has a mind, and mind is there everywhere. In the leg you have a mind, in the hand you have a mind, and in the head also you have got a mind, brain also you have got a mind. But the brain is not the seat of the mind. The whole universe is the seat of the mind, universal consciousness, of which we have a individual consciousness. And that mind is the healer. How does it do that? Because today we know matter is energy, energy is matter, E is equal to M, which is called A duality. So mind is matter, matter is mind. So the mind is just a matter and energy. And this energy is the one that runs our body. So the mind should concentrate on healing when you have to heal. And now if the mind concentrates and tells the subconscious mind, come on now you heal it, the body heals it. The mind heals it. And this is what is happening to many of us when we can control our diseases with our mind only. I'll tell you a story of my own. One day I got up in the morning and thought I was not seeing, I was seeing a black spot in front of my eyes, left eye. So I went to one of my students who is a leading ophthalmologist in Bangalore. He saw me and said, sir, you have a small little spot in your retina. So you might become blind. I'll have to give you an injection. I said, I don't want injection. Tell me what to do. No, you've got to get it and it won't go on its own. I said, don't worry, I tell myself. So I went and I did what we call as quantum healing, which I tried on my own. And you would be surprised, I have published that data. My eyes completely cleared. My retina completely cleared. I published that data in a scientific journal. This was the first time I realized that it's possible to control your own illnesses. Just as an atom knows the structure of a molecule, every body cell knows the structure of its own organ. So you can tell that cell to rebuild the organ. It can rebuild. And that's what I did with my retina. You can do it with any other organ. Actually, it's a faith, it's a belief. When once you believe you can do it certainly. Actually, a lot of people get relief from Lourdes water. They get relief from this various, in the olden days, the healers were all either priests or sannyasis and people like that. It's the faith in them that heals the disease. Medicine is also a faith, sort of a faith. Placebo effect. Because, they did a study in Oxford. What they did was they gave morphine to a patient with severe pain. Morphine is the most powerful painkiller. But then the doctors told the patient who had faith in the doctor, this is not morphine, this is only a vitamin we are giving you for your disease. It will not remove your pain. And would you believe 88% of the people did not have relief for pain when morphine was running in the vein. So they took the same patient, crossed over study, and started a saline drip, ordinary salt water drip. But the doctors told the patient, this is morphine, 100%, very good salt of morphine, your pain will go, 90% of their pain went. So this is a study which shows that the mind does the job. Then they were surprised, researchers were surprised, they were nonplussed as to why it happened. So they did the same study again with an fMRI. fMRI is a functional MRI. So it tells you what happens to the brain. When the mind believed that this is morphine, the forebrain produced so much of painkillers that the pain disappeared. When the mind did not believe it is the morphine, even though morphine was going in, mind did not believe it, nothing happened because the forebrain slept. So ultimately the healing has to come from your own inside. And that is what we call as quantum healing. And this is how many of our people live up to 100 years without any medicines, because they have got faith in themselves and they have got faith in their own capacity to heal, and they are able to heal. This is the idea I want to sell to you, to see that you don't run after medicine for everything. Have patience. Let's say you get a cold, common cold or flu. Just have to wait for 2 or 3 days, because that's the time that the virus settles there and then dies. But if you don't have that patience, you will immediately want a tablet. And if you took a tablet, what happens is your symptoms will go, but the disease won't go. So you feel miserable for a week or so. But if you waited for 3-4 days without any medicines, without even taking something to lower your blood temperature, you will feel fine at the end of the day. That day, you are fit to go back to work. And the idea is when the body temperature goes up, body wants the temperature to be up to kill the germ. So don't try to lower it with some metacin or crocin or things like that, because that works against nature. That is why I always say have patience. And if you have patience, you have enough time to heal yourself. Everything has time, it takes time for everything. You can't produce a baby in one day, it takes 9 months. So healing also takes time, and you must have the patience. And if you have the patience, as a matter of fact, all diseases can be controlled. You will be surprised. I have seen patients controlling their cancer with their mind. Because after all, cancer is also in the mind only. And if you can control the mind, you can control your cancer. We get frightened when we hear the word cancer. But what we don't know and what we are not told is, cancer is a big industry. Cancer is a $1 trillion industry in this country. And cancer medicines are very expensive. But I am yet to see a patient who has completely recovered after taking cancer treatment with a conventional medicine, because it literally destroys the body, and many a time it produces another cancer in the body. The cancer treatment produces another cancer. So if you can control your cancer with your mind, it is much safer and easier, and it's a permanent cure. Coming back to again the body's capacity to heal, you must only remember that your forefathers, your ancestors, you go back to your own history. Many of them did not take medicines, many of them did not have doctors, many of them did not even go to the doctor or the hospital. But they were all well, and they lived long and lived happily, because they had the capacity to heal themselves, and they had the patience to wait till the healing occurs on its own. And the two things you must have: A, the belief; B, the patience. And if you have these two, your body has the capacity to heal itself. That is called quantum healing, and that's what's called body's inherent capacity to heal itself. Because body is built to last, remember that. You are sent here to last as long as you last, with the enough immune system to protect you. Don't be in a hurry to destroy the immune system, because many of us destroy the immune system by our habits. Bad food, too many drugs, alcohol, smoking, and no exercise. These are things that destroy the immune system. So what you should do is, don't drink alcohol, because alcohol doesn't do any good. Alcohol is the biggest poison. Next is tobacco smoke. Don't do that. Don't overeat. Overeating is another curse on mankind. Eat in moderation what you like to eat. Ayurveda has a very simple formula for healthy living. Nitya, hita, mita, ahara, sevi. Daily eat in moderation what you love. So don't say this rice I don't like, this wheat I don't like, that cholesterol I don't like, this oil I don't like. That stress itself will kill you. You simply eat what you like, but in moderation. The key word is moderation. Then it says, Nitya hita mita ahara sevi. Samikshakari, work very hard. Many of us die because we don't work. Work very hard, and hard work has not killed nobody. Laziness kills. Samikshakari. Data, be a giver, not a taker. So be giving to others, you be generous. Data, samaha, treat everyone as equal. Satyapara, don't tell a lie. Because when you tell a lie, it's a great stress, because you remember the lie for the next time also. Supposing I told you a lie, next time when I meet you, maybe I'll have to remember the same lie. But if I have told you the truth, I don't have to remember anything, I can forget about it, because it's the same truth anyway. Truth remains the same. It is the truth, not a truth. So, truth is samaha satyapara. Kshamavan. You can say, okay, I won't harm anybody, but you can't say others should not harm me. When somebody harms you, you say, okay, forget about it. Probably, you understand him. And then forgive him. Forgiveness is the greatest gift mankind has got received from God. If you can forgive people, you will live long. If you can forgive people, you are healthy. If you can forgive people, you are happy. If you can forgive people, you can make others happy. And forgiveness is the gift. So, Kshamavan. Aptopasevi bhavet arogyam. Treat everyone as your near and dear ones, you will be healthy. Of course, your wife and children or husband and wife children are your own. There is no doubt about that. But everyone you come meet with are your own. If you treat everyone like that, then you are very healthy. That's the formula in Ayurveda. Then how do you get disease? It says, dukkha, krodha, shoka, bhaya, ayasa, viruddhana bhojana, taponala katva, amla kshala lavana tikshnote, rakta pitta prakopeta. Krodha, anger. Krodha, shoka, frustration, depression. Krodha, shoka, bhaya, fear, extreme fear. Ayasa, exhaustion. Viruddhana bhojana, wrong type of food at the wrong time. Taponala is not doing anything, just sedentary living. Taponala, tikshnostati, taking all kinds of spices and things like that in very large doses. Rakta pitta prakopeta, all diseases will come to you. So there are two sentences, if you remember from Ayurveda, you are fine for daily living. Now, having heard that, don't go home with that idea and tell your wife, now I don't have to worry, I'll never get any disease. No, that's not true. Even if you follow like a sannyasi, all the lifestyle changes, you still can be struck down by a disease because this is an accident. But the chances are that your disease will be less. And also the chances are that if you follow the lifestyle before the disease and after the disease, your recovery will be very fast. Like for example, I have been following the lifestyle that I advocate to others. I have been trying to walk my talk. And one fine morning, I was in Dharmasala College, about 50 miles from Bangalore, lecturing to the students for about 2.5 hours. Then the temple was there, so I went to the temple for a darshan. And after that, the Dharmadhikari's house is there. So they invited me for lunch, so I went to their house for lunch. I had my lunch, and then I went for washing my hands. Then I suddenly realized my left leg has become a little heavier. So I quickly realized that I had a minor stroke. So I called my driver and take me home quickly. So we went home back to Bangalore in 1.5 hours. And then my daughter was a doctor. She's a professor of medicine in Bangalore, same medical college that I was the dean. And my son-in-law is a cardiac surgeon, so they took me to the hospital. And the scan showed I had a small little leak in my thalamus, a small drop of a leak in thalamus which disappeared in 2 days' time. And you would be surprised that within 2 or 3 days I recovered, and I thought I'll never walk. It's very interesting, I tell you. I couldn't walk, I thought I'll never walk. Fear takes him. And I had a student of mine who is a neurosurgeon who was a head of the team that was looking after me. So this boy came, he's a very good neurosurgeon. His name is Dr. Yam Pai. So he came and he was sitting on my bed and said, sir, then I told him in his language, Konkani, that I will not be able to speak at all. I will not be able to walk at all. Then he said, sir, you will walk. I said, what are you doing? You must be joking. He said, no, next week you will walk, sir. If you don't walk, I will stop doing neurosurgery, he said. Then so much of confidence came. This is called the positive thinking. He put that idea into me. So I said, if he is stopping doing neurosurgery, that means he is definitely saying I am walking. And you would be surprised, next week I walk. Otherwise, I was jealous of people walking I was sleeping in the hospital bed, and I could see people walking outside the window. I was jealous of their walking because I couldn't walk. I needed 2 people to lift me to even stand up. Then I had wonderful physiotherapists, all my old students only. And they saw to it that I not only walk, everything they taught me, how to walk, how to climb stairs, how to sit, how to stand, how to lie down, how to get up. Everything they have methodically taught me. Of course, I forget sometimes. But then I have been following them and they have made me independent, as you say. So I don't have that usual, the idea of having had a stroke. I have forgotten that. And after a week, the scan showed the little blood leak in the thalamus has also disappeared completely. There was not even a trace of that leak there, and they couldn't find out where the leak was originally. So, if you follow the rules of the game, like you follow the traffic rules, accidents are less. So, this is an accident, and if you don't follow the rules, accidents are too many. But if you follow the rules, accidents are much less, and recovery from the accident also is less, faster. And that's my advice to you. So don't worry about illness and don't think you can avoid illnesses. No, illnesses are an accident. They come even if you don't want it, and you don't know when they come, how they come, why they come. But they come. Science has no answer for why. Science knows how or how much, but not why. And that's why when you say, why did he get that? We have no answer. How did he get that? We can give you a big lecture on that. But why did he get that? I don't know. Actually, this was the first time I realized what a big fool I was. Up until then I was thinking of all that this girl read out. I studied here, studied there, it's got into my head. One day, I had a patient, young boy, not boy, young man about 37, brought dead at 2 o'clock in the morning to our intensive care unit. So the wife was about 35 years old, married about 10 years earlier, no children. She was devastated. She was rolling on the bed, on the floor in the ICU. So my juniors called me and said, sir, you better come because we can't control this lady. So at 2 o'clock in the morning I went to the hospital. And in a hurry I didn't put on my shoes, I had my chappals on. As I walked into the ICU, this lady saw me coming and she caught hold of my ankle. So tight, I tell you, that I thought my ankle was going to break. She caught hold of me and asked me one question. Why did my husband die, doctor? And for the first time I said, what a bloody fool I am, because I don't know the answer. How did my husband die, doctor? I would have given her a lecture. Your husband had a heart attack, blah, blah, blah. And all this bullshit that we read in the medical books. That there is a block in the coronary vessel, it came out, or a heart attack happened, etc. No. But what she asked was, why did my husband get a heart attack, doctor? Why did my husband die, doctor? Then I realized for the first time that this is no good. So I went into philosophy, then various things, into spirituality, and various things. Ultimately, I landed up with a beautiful study by a great scientist, Nobel laureate called Sherrington, who said, positive sciences can never answer the question why. They can at best answer how or how much, but not why. And then I realized science is very, very limited. It has no answer for the question why. And science cannot tell you how did you come here, where are you going, how are you going, where are you, when are you going. We don't know. Only a poet could do that. Emerson said, our ingress into this world was naked and bare. Our progress in this world is trouble but care. Our regress from this world will be no one knows where. If you do well here, you will do well there. So my suggestion for you is, as long as you are here, do well. Do something good. So that wherever you go afterwards, nobody knows where you go. Wherever you go, you will do well there. And this will go with you for all times to come. So friends, our main job in life is to be good human being. Human being first. And what's a good human being? A good human being is one who has got enthusiasm to work. I must work because I am sent here to work. I got two hands. Now imagine if all the Indians, 101.2 billion people, were to work, India will be the most powerful country. But hardly even 10% of them work. Rest of them just eat what others have worked, from what others have worked. So we must change that. Enthusiasm to work. And the second thing is enthusiasm to be compassionate. We should be compassionate, then only this world can go on. And you think compassion is for others only? No, compassion is good for you. When I do something good to you, it does a lot of good to my health. So if you want to improve your health, do something to others. If you want happiness, make another person happy. When you see someone happy, you are happy. But you can't get happiness for yourself. You must give happiness to others, it will come back. As an American poet, as Christina said, if love is what you give away, love is what comes back each day like a mirror, it reflects back. If happiness is what you give away, happiness is what comes back each day. So try and give happiness to others. And then see how the world will be a wonderful place to live on. If each one of us were to look at others. And do you know what my definition of a spiritual person? A person who can see God in himself and God in everyone else. If I can see God in me and God in each one of you, how can I look down upon you? I will look up to you. And that's the level when I become a spiritual person. So spiritual person is not one who goes to the temple or talks about God and things like that. No. In this context, the Indian yoga system is very, very good for the youngsters to develop. Yoga is a method of keeping the mind tranquil. Yoga is not the asanas that you see on the thing. You know, I was joking the other day, somebody was talking in the television about Prime Minister Modi. He said Prime Minister Modi is not a yogi. He can't do Padmasana. You know, a lot of us cannot do Padmasana because we have some genetic abnormalities in our pelvis. I can't sit in Padmasana, for example. Modi, I am told, can't sit in Padmasana. So that man was saying he is not a yogi. And if one who can't do Padmasana is not a yogi. A yogi is one who Chitta Vritti Nirodha Yoga. Yoga is only tranquility of the mind. Chitta is that level of the mind where ego gets in. Aham, I. You know, that I is illness. When once we say we, wellness. Very simple. So from I you change to we, you become a good human being. You are well, let the world be well. And do well and let others get well. You are a wonderful human being. And if you are all good human beings, this world is a wonderful place to live in. So let us try and strive to be good human beings so that our friends, our associates, our surroundings, our office, our home, everything becomes a nicer place for others to live also. So don't you think it's a good thing to do that? And that's also called a part of the what's called the quantum healing. Now why this name quantum healing? Quantum is a jump, a new thing, just new thing comes. This old healing method is known for generations, from times immemorial. Nothing new about it. But we only give it a new scientific name, quantum healing, and talk about it. It's actually the belief. And if you believe you can be healthy, you can be healthy. If you believe you are unhealthy, you are unhealthy. If you every day think you have cancer, you are going to get cancer and be afraid of cancer, one day cancer will come. So don't think of diseases. Think of health and think you are a healthy person. You are going to live here forever. Doesn't matter when you are going to go. But you imagine that you are here forever and not to die at all. But when you die, God knows. But it doesn't matter because when you go, you can't tell others that you are going. And you don't know where you go, how you go, when you go, where and how long do you live. But when you every day working, you think you are immortal. But for being compassionate, you think you are going to last only for 1 day or 2 days, so that you suddenly become very compassionate to others. Supposing I tell all of you that tomorrow there's going to be an earthquake in San Francisco or in Seattle, nobody will worry. You will go home and sleep comfortably. Suppose I call one of you or two of you and say, look, you will have a problem tomorrow, you will not sleep tomorrow. So it's again selfishness that makes you feel bad or good. As long as we are not selfish, we are selfless and we love everybody, you are happy anyway. So friends, if you have the will, you have the way. And if you know how to correct yourself, you can heal yourself. So again I reiterate what I said. There is no pill for every ill, but there is an ill following every pill. I also wrote an editorial in the BMJ called Pills Thrill but Could Kill, which is true. But that does not mean that you go home and say, Dr. Hegde said we should not take pills, so we are throwing it away. Don't do that, please, for heaven's sake. Because if you are taking a medicine, you suddenly stop it, you may get rebound phenomenon. Supposing you are, let's say you are drinking a bottle of whiskey every day. One day you decide not to drink whiskey at all, you will get fits. I still remember the day when I was Vice Chancellor at Manipal. In the office, a lot of people used to come, and each time the attendant will get a cup of tea. When he gets a cup of tea for them, he'll get a cup of tea for me also. One day I calculated, I had 36 cups of tea by the evening. So I said, what is this? I have become a teetotaler, totally tea. So I'm going to stop it now. And I did a foolish thing. I told him, don't get me tea, get me water, get them tea. But let it be in a cup so that they don't know it's not tea. And would you believe, for another week I had such intense headache. So headache was so heavy that I thought I had a brain cancer. It's so heavy. The headache gradually disappeared when I stopped tea. So don't suddenly stop anything, especially the medicine. My daughter, who is a doctor, she always tells me, Daddy, you don't go and tell them to stop medicines. All of them will go home and throw their medicines in the basket. Don't do that. But there's a joke about it. It seems the husband was all the time complaining that he has to have a checkup. So he went to the doctor, paid him a big fees. So then he gave a big laundry list of prescriptions. He went to the pharmacy, bought all of them at a very heavy cost. Then came home and his wife was seeing him throwing the medicines in the waste paper basket. So she asked him, honey, what did you do? You spent so much money with the doctor, so much money in the pharmacy. Now he said, look, if I don't go to the doctor will have to survive. If I didn't buy medicines, the pharmacist will have to survive. If I take these medicines, I will have to survive. So he threw the medicines away. So that's the truth actually. So medicines are not good, but at the same time, medicines sometimes are inevitable. Like for example, a lot of people send me, every day I get about 80 to 100 emails asking for medical advice. They don't realize that. They say, I am sending my report. You give me advice. I always tell them, I didn't learn how to treat reports. I have learned how to treat human beings. Unless I see yourself or your father or mother whom you are asking me to help, I won't be able to help. And even today, for example, 5 such messages are there. My father has some problem, immediately I have sent his report. So I tell them, I don't know how to read reports. So send the reports, go back. Now this report is a new curse on us. In the good old days when we were all students, what we used to do is, if you have to see a patient, you got to first examine the patient carefully. Come to a bedside conclusion as to what the diagnosis is. Then to confirm it or refute it, 1 or 2 tests we used to ask for. Today it's not like that. First you do tests, all the tests under the sun. And you get lot of reports. And once you get a report, then you start thinking about it, what to do and things like that. That's very bad because what are these reports? Please remember one thing, there is nothing called normal in human life. Only we have averages. These are all statistics. What is normal blood pressure? I don't know. Very interesting thing happened. Somebody was taking a survey. So he came to me and said, Doctor, what is the normal blood pressure? I said, I don't know. Then he went to another American doctor and said, what is the normal blood pressure? He also said, I don't know. Then he went to a college and asked the students, what is the normal blood pressure? Everybody said 120, 120, 120. About 200 people said that. Then he went to a school and asked the children. Everybody said 120, 120, 120. They were absolutely certain what is normal blood pressure. But actually that's not the normal blood pressure, that's the average blood pressure. If you take the average of statistical mean then average becomes normal, then lot of normal people become abnormal. That's called false positive. 5% on either side. So for every measure, your 10% people become abnormal without having any disease. Supposing you go for a checkup today in a big hospital, you got what's called total blood test. About 500 tests are done. So for 500, 5% is 2,500 patients. So if 100 people go in for a checkup, for a test, 2,500 patients come out. It's a very big business for us. We are creating patients. That's called disease mongering. So if you want to disease monger, you do the report. If you don't want to do that, you just only examine and do the test necessary to confirm and refute. I still remember the day when I was a house surgeon and I had a big professor who was a very big man in Chennai those days, one Dr. C.R. Pillai. So a new corporate hospital came up in Madras those days. It's called Apollo Hospital. And he was our student. He was my senior, the man who owns the Apollo Hospital. So he was requesting our professors to admit their patients there. So one day C.R.R. Pillai admitted one of his patients. Then he wrote, admit this patient and do these 2 tests. I have got a clinical diagnosis, I will come and see the patient tomorrow. When he went there next day, all the tests that were available in the hospital were done on that patient. Then he said, who asked this test to be done? Then they said, that's our chairman asked. Then he said, get my patient out. I am not going to come into this hospital. He never walked into that hospital after that. So those were the days were like that. See, the other day I was in Chennai. One of the leading orthopedic surgeons there came to me and said, sir, I want some advice from you. I said, okay, I'll examine you. He said, why examine? I've got my file. He had a thick file. He had gone to Singapore and done all the things. I said, look, that file, if I see and treat you, I have did what they have been treating you. If I have to treat you, I have to examine you. Then he said, do you want me to lie down? I said, yes, of course. I'm a senior orthopedic surgeon. I said, whether you're a senior orthopedic surgeon or not, if you want me to examine you, you have to lie down. So he took off his shirt, lied down. I examined him like a third-year student. It took me about half an hour to examine him. It came to a conclusion. I told him, I don't want any test. I know how to treat you. And he went back home and told his wife, who is also a doctor, said, that man examined me like a third-year medical student and came to a conclusion. That's exactly what we are supposed to do. You come to a conclusion at the end of that. And then only to refute it or to confirm it, 1 or 2 tests are needed. Today you are going for unnecessary tests because the hospital has to run and all the tests will have to be done. Otherwise those machines will go waste. That's exactly what is happening to medicine today. We have commercialized medicine so much. You will be surprised, in 1823, the London doctors were very bad. So a young doctor in London called David Oakley thought London doctors were a bunch of nincompoops, incompetent doctors who have become an abscess on the human body and they are destroying the human system. So he said, I'm going to start a science journal. I'm talking of 1823. I said, I'm going to start a science journal to teach them science so that they don't practice this kind of unscientific medicine. So he started the journal called The Lancet. He said, I'm going to call it a Lancet because I'm going to call it by the Lancet knife through which I can incise the abscess and drain away the pus. This started in 1823. Lancet started in 1823. It survived. Now it is 185 years old journal and one of the most leading medical journals in the world. Lancet. The present editor, one Richard Horton, wanted to see what has been the impact on doctors in the last 185 years that science has existed. So he asked a medical historian, Hilary Burton, to find out what has happened. She did an extensive study and wrote a line. What was once in 1823 a bunch of incompetent nincompoop doctors who have become. Today, they have become a corporate monstrosity on the public and killing people left, right and center. That's exactly what has happened to the medical profession. We have become so greedy, so incompetent and so money-minded that we have converted the medical profession into a business. Medicine should never be a business. Hippocrates wrote, never make money in the sick room. Time was when in England in the 18th century there were no hospitals. So the doctor could see the patient in the house. Convention was, after you examine the patient, gave the advice, etc., you go to wash your hands. When you go to wash your hands in the wash basin, the 3 gold coins were kept there, 3 guineas they were called, 1 pound and a shilling. If the coins are there, that means house has money to give you. So you wash your hands, pocket the money and walk away, saying thank you. Suppose the gold coins are not there, that means the money house cannot afford. So in that case, you go inside the house again, thank them for giving an opportunity to help another human being in distress, and then go home. That was the custom. Today it's the other way around. You send a bill to the patient. I have never sent a bill to the patient. And a lot of people don't pay, it doesn't matter. Don't send a bill. Because bill is very bad. That's why in Ayurveda they had warned, Vaidyaraja Namastubhyam. Doctor, I salute you. Why? Yamaraja Sahodara, you are the brother of Yamaraja. But there is a subtle difference. Yamastu Harati Prana, Yama only takes life. Vaidyo Prana Dhananti, you take life and money both. At the end of the day, when the patient dies, the family is in big debt. Supposing cancer patient goes to an institute for cancer treatment, patient of course will die, but the debt of the family will be for the rest of their life. And that's exactly what's happening. Vaidyo Narayana Hari. And this young lady said Vaidyo Narayana Hari. That's another mistaken idea that people think doctors are gods. No, never, they never said that. The whole stanza is Sharire Jajjari Bhute Vyadigraste Vaidyo Narayana Hari and Toyam Chanami Toyam. That is when you are really seriously ill, the only best doctor that you can see is God himself. And the only medicine you can take is Gangajal. And that is true. But we have cut that into saying that Vaidyo Narayana Hari is God, etc., etc. No. Very few Vaidyo Narayanas are there. But most Vaidyas are Narayanas in the sense that if they come to you, they will think of Narayana to survive. That's exactly what is happening. So thank you very much. I don't know how long I have spoken. We will have time for questions. Questions are welcome, answers not guaranteed. And you can ask questions, but say half an hour or so, I don't mind. I can stand and answer. I don't have to sit. Somebody asked me, is he talking in English or Kannada? For those people who don't know what Kannada is, let me tell you something. I did a study of Kannada. Kannada is the third oldest language in the world. Sanskrit. Second is German. Third is Kannada. Then all the other languages follow. And Kannada is a very old language. That's fine. No problem. No problem.
I'll read out those questions and then you can take it.
Okay. We'll take it from there.
So,
Yeah, go on.
Am I audible?
Sure.
so couple of questions. You mentioned about the healing of your retina.
Am I audible now?
Okay. So you mentioned about
You mentioned about the healing that you got for yourself from the retina and the stroke.
and you. Hello. Hello.
Yes, I am hearing. I have my ear.
I just make this question.
So the question was that you mentioned about the retina healing and the stroke that came up overcame, and you told that you had a strong thinking power that you had. You were thinking that you're going to get well, get stuff. So what are those some of the techniques that we can adopt the next time we get in?
That's a very good question. Actually, it's $1 million question, so to say. I didn't want to tell you that suo motu. To tell your mind, you have to be able to talk to your subconscious mind. Talking to subconscious mind is not easy. You have to get into that mood. And one of the methods of doing that is you start counting backwards. What I do is I count for 50 downwards. I better do it in my Kannada language. It's easier. Instead of saying 50, 49. Then you come to 0. By then your brain waves change to delta. So that's the time you can talk to your subconscious mind. So when you want to talk to your subconscious mind, get into that mode. and then tell your subconscious mind you can do that. Go on doing it. And you must believe it. See, remember, the most important thing is belief. Faith and belief is the most important thing. Yes.
This question is from Varun Kumar and one more from Santosh. So they are basically asking like how to manage cholesterol, sugar with home remedies and how to control type 2 diabetes with home.
Please remember that cholesterol is not a disease. Today, cholesterol is not even considered to be bad. Cholesterol is supposed to be good. And so you don't have to worry about cholesterol. Sugar you can control by reducing your eating. You will be surprised. You can control any amount of sugar by fasting and reducing your eating and exercise. And what else did you
cholesterol and sugar.
say? Sugar and diabetes is the same.
So the next question is from Prasanna Revan. Is there any difference between organic and non-organic produce? What is that?
Very interesting question. Very interesting question. You see, today, this country is at least some restrictions are there in India. People put all kinds of chemicals into the fields. I was telling actually one day, one of the greatest agricultural scientists in India who got all the awards. I told him, you are responsible for what we are suffering now. He said, why sir? I said, you are the one who advised our Prime Minister and our Food Minister at that time, C. Subramaniam, that fertilizer should be put to the field for an immediate response, and you wanted to get some benefit. But actually, you are working as an agent for IOL. And now that you have done that, you don't know how to control it. So they put it. So friends, you don't have to put so much of chemicals in your food. But if you want to survive, you so-called organic, here organic means something probably definite. But in India, so-called organic is, you just simply write organic, it becomes organic. But what I tell people is, wash your fruits very carefully with soap and water. Brush them nicely, then eat. You're safe. But some people say they inject it to the fruit. Then God only should help you. Can't do it.
Hello. So the next question is from Bhavana. She says, in the book, What Doctors Don't Study in Medical School, you have given a lot of suggestions. Is there any other books on the ancient Indian medical system that will help augment the thinking or the saying that you are saying in that?
There is a nice article that I have written. How might Ayurveda help modern medicine to have a better healing effect on the human system? Please do that, because Ayurveda is a great science. And modern medicine is not a science, it's a reduction science. Ayurveda is a holistic science, it looks at the whole and controls the whole. So take Ayurveda's help.
This question is from Tejasvi. What do you say about vaccination? Is it good? Not good?
Well, dangerous to talk about that in America. I remember one of my friends was a very good doctor here. She talked the truth about vaccination and she has been thrown out of this country. If you want to know the truth about vaccination, please write to her. I'll give her an email address. Her name is Rima Laibo. RIMALAIBOW. RimaLaibo@gmail.com. And she will tell you the truth about vaccination. I won't tell you that. Because vaccine companies are very powerful. You can't talk against very powerful people. They have a lot of money. They control the world. Money controls the world.
Sir, this question is
about
That does not mean vaccines are bad. There are certain vaccines are absolutely necessary. But giving 69 vaccines to a child before the age of 6 months looks ridiculous.
This question is from Sheena. You had spoken about coconut oil benefits long time back, and recently there was an article by one of the Harvard professors which is going viral. What is true?
Yeah, very interesting. Even when the world was saying coconut oil is bad, I was the only one who was saying coconut oil is good. Because I analyzed coconut oil for its fatty acid. Coconut oil, mother's milk and body's immune system contain the same fatty acid, monolauric acid. And coconut oil can't be bad. If coconut oil is bad, mother's milk must be equally bad. Of course, coconut oil has saturated fat. That doesn't mean anything. Because today we don't think saturated fat is bad. Actually, they have found in cholesterol plaques in the vessels. The fats that deposited are not saturated fats, unsaturated fats. So taking all these funny oils which are unsaturated fatty acids may be dangerous. Coconut oil is good. But then the problem is now somebody has said coconut oil is poison. I don't know. I don't know her. I have not studied what she said. But she has said this correctly. I would like to know one thing. Who funded her? Let me tell you something, my dear friends. Today science is bought, science is sold, and science is controlled by money. I don't know if you have read this book. Please read this book if you have not. Science Set Free, by a great scientist in Cambridge. Science Set Free, or Limits to Science. There's a nice book by another Nobel laureate. Limits to Science. And Limits to Science, or Science Set Free, tells you how science is controlled by money. And if you don't have money, you don't have science. So before any statement is accepted, I always want to know who funded them. A lot of people thought I was funded by the coconut industry. But coconut was such a scare, I tell you. 84, I was giving a talk in Boston to the American College of Cardiology. There were about 26,000 cardiologists in the audience. I was talking about the coconut oil's ideal thing for the heart. At the end of the talk, 5 minutes question hour became almost half an hour question hour. I survived that. And as I was going out, it was about 4:30 in the evening, Boston, summer evening. So one of the senior most cardiologists got hold of me. This was about 20 years ago. I was looking younger, I think. So he said, "Young man, do you have any other work in Boston?" I said, "No, sir." "Then you better get lost before it becomes dark. Because the opposing lobby is so powerful here, they may buff you up." He said, "Take the next train or bus or plane or whatever and get lost from Boston." That is the kind of science that we are dealing with. So science is not the truth. Science is probably not even a truth.
Sir, most of us here are born and brought up in India, and we have migrated here, made this country our home. So should we, from a diet perspective, should we eat the local diet, or should we continue to eat
Listen to me very carefully. And once you migrate to this country, it takes about 2 years for you to acclimatize to this country. You can eat what they eat, no problem done. You can eat what you have been eating in India also, no harm done. It doesn't matter, but as long as you eat in moderation, you are okay. Don't overeat.
So the follow-up question is, see, Seattle area is, we are covered by 2 mountain ranges. So we have a lot of gloomy days, we have cloudy regions. So wherever we go, we hear that you guys have vitamin D deficiency, and it leads to a lot of depression.
Find out if you have got vitamin D deficiency by doing your test. But in India, what happens is anybody who goes for a vitamin D test has a very low vitamin D level. Because the laboratories are set in such a way that the levels are always very low. You don't know what happens, they say. You don't know the inside. Get it done, and if necessary, get replacement.
So another question from the audience is, how to take care of health after 50 years?
What is 50? What is that watershed? You start taking care of your health when you are 5 years old. Why only 50?
Most of us are in the 40s now.
You are thinking of yourself.
So another question, sir, how can we teach our kids to follow better diet when people have different options?
Very simple. Example is not one of the many ways of influencing people. Example is the only way. You don't eat junk food and tell the child to eat good food. You want your children to believe you, do what you tell them. Walk your talk.
Another question, how do we overcome low points in life?
Low point, what do you mean? Depression. No, never look down, look up always. Even when you are in the dumps, look at the stars. Where anybody can go. So if you think positively, there's no depression. Depression is a state of mind.
So another question. So you talked about one of the TED talks. You talked about bacteria, right? So we have a lot of bacteria every part of the body. Now we use mouthwashes, the chemical one, right? So does it impact our health?
Yes, it does. Bacteria are necessary, and there must be a lot of bacteria. Actually, you have got 3 million bacteria inside your mouth. So the one young girl was listening to her mother preaching and said, "My God, such a bad thing the mother mouth." So she said, "Honey, don't kiss your boyfriend." He said, "No. If he gives it to me, I'll give it back to him."
This is the last question from Manu. He's asking about like when kids are born, they say that you need to store the stem.
Business. I don't think the genetics has any role to play now. The human gene, if you know the human metagenome, every human metagenome has 23,000 human genes for 2.5 trillion germ genes. So your contribution from your parents is 23 divided by 2.5 trillion. That's 1 in a million. So what you inherit from your parents is 1 in a million. So nothing happens. Don't worry. Now we have come to epigenetics. It's the environment that changes evolution. So it's the environment in which the child grows that matters to the child's health. That's why I said, give the child a good example.
So we'll open it up to the audience.
Yes. Questions welcome, answers not guaranteed. Yes, youngster, that young man raised his hand. No, little fellow there. Pink t-shirt.
I'll start, sir.
Yes.
I got the mic first.
Go on.
So this is the question about like the today's medical practices. Like even when we go to the hospital, as you said, like before they even look at us, like they ask for like 20 tests to be done. How do we deal with such medical practices?
Avoid next time that hospital.
Yes,
Go to
but
Canadian Medical Association Journal. There are criteria as to which doctor to go. And says if a doctor is not interested in you, he doesn't listen to you, he cuts you short, writes a prescription and you are talking, don't go to that doctor again.
okay, that's the interesting way of looking at it. But like if I choose to go to a next doctor, probably he will write 25 tests. So like the practice itself become so
I told you it will
polluted.
become now business, not practice.
Yeah. So
Difficult.
A request to all the audiences, if you have questions, kindly come and line up so it's more easier. We just have one mic working right now.
She has a written down question on mobile.
Hi sir, that was an amazing talk. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So I have 2 questions of very different topics, but my first one is I follow a doctor from New York. I want to be a doctor when I grow up, but I follow a doctor from New York and he says that supplements aren't good, and you are saying now, which is also, I guess, backing up that, but you say that after every pill there's an ill that follows. So what is your opinion on supplements?
Supplements. What supplements you are talking about?
Like, yeah, vitamins.
Take them, no harm.
No.
No harm.
And then my second question.
It makes you happy, take them.
And my second question is, I have family members who are diabetic.
Sorry?
I have family members who are diabetic, and what's your opinion on wine? Because there have been many studies where wine supposedly does help people with diabetes.
Wine.
Mm-hmm.
W-I-N-E. Yes, it will increase your blood sugar.
Thank you.
If you want to cure your diabetes, there are some doctors in India doing that now. There's an organization called freedomfromdiabetes.org. Contact them. They'll cure your diabetes, not just control it. Cure permanently. No diabetes after that. Freedom from diabetes, one word, freedom from diabetes, no gap in between, .org. And the doctor called Pramod Tripathi, and he is a good boy. He does a good job.
Hello, sir. Quick question on what's your thoughts on
Two
probiotics?
questions.
No, just one.
Tell me.
So, what's your thoughts on probiotics? Because there's a big industry going
It's
on.
a big industry, another industry, that's all.
That's it?
It's a big industry. The best probiotic that you can get in Indian is curds. Yeah.
Thank you.
Curds, even fermented idlis, they're all probiotic.
Sir, I have two questions. One is on GERD. I'm diagnosed with GERD. GERD. I'm diagnosed with GERD, and pretty much they say there's no treatment, and I'm taking tablets forever. What is a solution for that?
GERD is in the mouth. Relax and consult a clinical psychologist. We'll shrink your brain and GERD will go. And I can tell you some home remedy. Jeera water, you know jeera water? Are you from Malabar?
Hyderabad.
Kochuvellam, you don't know. You are from where?
I'm from Hyderabad, but I know Jeera.
Hyderabad. But you know jeera water?
Yes.
Ideal.
Thanks, sir. The second question is, I've come across a document fasting, and they say that fasting, they claim that it's part of like the Russian public health system, and if you fast, say, depending on your health condition, it's actually a reset mechanism for your body, and it can actually reset your entire body. Is that true?
Absolutely true. Periodic fasting is very good for health. That's why if you know your ancient system, that you know what they call Ekadashi, Dwadashi, Trayadashi and all, if you ask these very, very orthodox Brahmins, they hardly eat any day. Every day there is some Ekadashi happening.
Thank you.
So my question is about hygiene steps we follow in our life, because I've seen when I go to my village, they don't follow much of hygiene techniques, but still they're healthy. Whereas in my home, like in my in city life, people wash their hands like multiple times. They even brush like 3 times a day. Different, like they have different hygiene techniques. I prefer to eat breakfast without brushing and brush after eating my breakfast, which may annoy some people, but I prefer that way healthy.
That's okay. No problem. Germs don't kill you. They are our friends.
Hello, firstly, doctor, thank you very much for your talk. It was very nice, insightful. I have a question. When I go to my doctor, and he always tells me don't compete me with Dr. Google.
Sorry?
With Dr. Google, basically don't look at online for whatever.
He is absolutely right. He is absolutely right.
In fact, my question was, do you have any reliable websites that you recommend that we can go to look up before we go?
Please don't go to a website to know about your health, because it's all unfiltered data, and most of the time vested interest put it there to frighten you.
So if we cannot go to a doctor who might be vested too, so who should we? So we need some reliable information.
No, you need a good human being as a doctor, and no replacement for that.
Thank you.
So apart from drugs, they say like the cosmetics which we use now and perfumes, they use like harmful heat exchangers. So,
Yeah.
so I just want to know like what is your suggestion and like what do you suggest for that?
Yes, they are absolutely right. Even the sprays that you use have got some cancerogenic substances. The lipsticks that you use have pro-estrogens. And they have found out in Britain that lipstick using ladies' breasts become a little bigger, the next generation, and they get breast cancer more.
So what would be the alternative? That's the thing, like yeah.
I can give you a home remedy for lipstick. Eat betel leaf. You will have very little lips.
My question is related to dialysis,
Dialysis?
which is a regular business where like over and which everybody is suffering from every week or so. Is there any way to come out of that?
Not after you go for dialysis, before that. There are a lot of very good Ayurvedic doctors who treat kidney disease. So they will let you go into that dialysis space. As you very rightly said in the beginning, dialysis is the biggest industry. The dialysis centers are there. I have a student of mine who has got about 15 beds dialysis center. It's a huge business. All that he has to do is come there and start all the things and then go and sleep at home and come back again, collect the money and go home.
Yeah, I have seen people who are suffering with dialysis, and I have seen people who are suffering from dialysis, and there is no case where they are survived. Only the case like how long they are surviving.
No, longer they live, the better for the business.
So, is there like any way to come out of this? Like
That's what I said. In the beginning itself, kidney disease, you must see a good Ayurvedic doctor. So they control that.
now after that, like once people are going for a dialysis.
Nothing much can be done.
So my second question is like you said like we have to I mean whenever doctors suggest us like to go for a test or something like that, which we keep regularly happening, and is there any way where we can identify like this is the right thing to do or is this the right?
You can ask the doctor, doctor, why are all these tests needed? What's my problem? What's your clinical diagnosis? Let me do only those tests.
Yeah.
Can we limit it to one question? Yeah. So,
How do we limit that?
yeah.
That's what you discuss with your doctor.
So you spoke about quantum healing, which works on yourself. So when you are pregnant, so my question is, when you're pregnant and you have a baby inside you, if the doctor diagnoses a problem in the baby, like there is an illness, for example, does quantum healing help?
To the best of my knowledge, no, it doesn't affect the baby. Baby has a mind of its own.
My question is like, if there is an illness in the baby, does the quantum healing helps the baby?
That's exactly what I said. You
No.
can't treat the quantum healing of the baby because it is a mind of its own.
Oh, okay. All right, I got it. Thank you so much.
You don't mind my sitting?
No, sir.
Even for sitting, you must go back to the chair. Both your legs must touch the edge of the chair. Then hold the chair and sit down. So that you don't drop down. Go on.
Sugar gave walking world yoga class. Yoga.
Both are same. But walking is the best exercise that man can have. Yoga.
Thank you.
What he asked in Kannada was, is walking good or yoga good for sugar levels? I told him either are good, is okay, but any one of them is good.
I can't use coconut oil, so what are other recommendations you have?
Sorry?
I can't use coconut oil
Why can't you use coconut oil?
because I get rashes.
Coconut oil gives you rashes?
Yes.
I've never heard that in my life.
Really?
Yeah. What you should do is take a little bit of coconut oil, rub it on your skin, and see, you just go on increase the dosage, the rashes will disappear. First time I heard that.
Hi sir, I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, and here they say there is no medication for that at all except steroids.
You are right. Can I give you some advice?
Yes please.
You will take it seriously.
Yeah sure.
Go home, sit in your room all alone, and make a list of people whom you hate, whom you want to destroy in your subconscious mind. Really honestly make it. And forgive all of them. Your rheumatoid arthritis will simply disappear. I'm not joking.
I will try.
I'm telling you.
Sir, these days obesity has become a big problem worldwide. People say they do diet, but diet means in their language they try to skip a breakfast or try to reduce it and just eat one kind of food like cereals or something. What is your advice for such people?
No, reduce what you are eating. Supposing you are eating a small meal, reduce it. Suppose you are a big meal, half it. If you once you reduce your intake, your weight will automatically come down.
We have the last 5 minutes. These will be the people who will be asking questions.
Sir, my sister, me and her always have fight.
Sorry?
Me and my sister, we always have fight. So,
You have a fight with your sister.
always. No
My
matter-
God.
Like, I put little bit less yogurt for her. She's like, no, I want more. I said, it's enough for you. She starts yelling. I want to stop. I want to make it stop. Just fights.
I gave you the formula, compassion.
Okay.
Love your sister. Ask her to love you. You will not fight anymore.
Thank you.
ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ ಡಾಕ್ಟ್ರೆ
Namaskaram.
ಈ 10 ಜನ ಹುಡುಗರನ್ನ ಮಾತಾಡ್ಸಿದ್ರೆ ಬಂದು 4 ತಿಂಗಳಾಯ್ತು ಎವ್ರಿ 10 ಹುಡುಗರನ್ನ ಮಾತಾಡ್ಸಿದ್ರೆ ಅದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ 6 ಜನಕ್ಕೆ ಬೆನ್ನು ನೋವು ಯಾವ ಥರದಲ್ಲಿ
Posture ಸರಿ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಕೂತ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದು ಸರಿ ಇಲ್ಲ. See, backache is due to bad posture. So ask them to sit straight. ಬೆನ್ನು ಸರ್ತ.
ಅದೇ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಆಪರೇಷನ್ ಆ ಥರ ಏನಾದ್ರು
ಅಯ್ಯೋ, for backache never go near a surgeon. Never. Back surgery is finished, then back is gone.
ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು
You must go to a physiotherapist who will set your back right.
Hello, sir. I heard even from you and from others also that fasting is really good for health, whether it is to lose weight or to improve one's health. My question is, what if a person has acidity or gas problem and can't do fasting? So, how?
Young lady, why can't you do fasting if you have acidity?
So we get hunger pangs, right? How?
No, you don't. That's a misnomer. Fasting